Hi, in this video tutorial we're going to look at creating a orthographic assembly drawing of our pickup truck. So freehand again, so I'm just going to use a pencil for this. So I've got an example in front of me and you can see that I've got a border around the edge. I like to draw a border just around quite close to the side, and that stops you getting your drawings or your views or your dimensions too close to the edge, which might be lost if it's scanned or if it's printed out, if it's a digital CAD version. So first thing you've got to do when you look at this, you need to think about how you're going to fit it all on the page. So we've got our elevation, so you would draw the little box for that to begin with, equal spacing between there and the end elevation and the plan. Just have a look at whether you're going to be able to fit it on the page. Remember, you're going to have to put in your view labels. You may have a title block on there to put on also. In this case we're not going to add any dimensions, but you might also have dimensions to fit in there as well. So you've got your sizes drawing in front of you. Here it is. So you will normally be giving a 3D view, pictorial view of your objects. There might be some 2D orthographic views as well with sizes, like in this case. And what it's looking for is, can you work out from a drawing the proportion and how things go together. So it's visually an interpretation of looking at an object. How does it go together? Can you visualize that as an orthographic drawing? So let's get started. So I've got my sort of baseline drawn in here to begin with. I'm going to look at the body part of the truck to begin with, and I'm just going to draw a crate or a box that is the size of that. So this is the main part of the object. I want to get this nice and accurate, good proportions, that's going to help the rest of the drawing as I go along. So it's really important at this stage to look at the object, look at the proportions, try and get it as good as you can to begin with. As I said before, one of the main factors or assessment parts of doing a assembly drawing is, have you drawn it in good proportion? Do the objects look like they're in the right place? Does it look like the object that you've been given? So there's the starting point for the body. Have a look at that. How's it looking? So I'm looking at the drawing that I've got in front of me, the other drawing. So that's looking pretty good. I'm not going to draw in my outlines yet because I've got other parts of the object to draw. So the next thing I'm going to look at is the position of the wheels. So I'm going to draw in some boxes for them. So this would be my ground line, and I'm working out where they would go. Something like that. So there's the outside squares for that, and again I can use my clock face technique for dividing up that to help me draw a circular object, a wheel in this case. So I've drawn my kind of Union Jack construction there. So again, I'm going to need to turn my page round to help me with this. It's much easier to draw the curves if you're following the way your hand naturally goes. And I'm going to go straight on and I'm going to draw a centre line. So things like that, it is good to put your British standard marks in as you go so you don't forget them. So I've got a bumper on the front as well. I'm just going to sketch that in now. Here's my bumper, which goes into that little slot there. And after I've done that, I can go ahead, I'm happy with the proportions, and I can go ahead and outline that so I can see what I'm doing. So here's my body and my bumper done. We've got a box on the back here, this sort of storage part of the pickup. So it extends a little bit out of the way and it's not as high up here as well. So again, I'm going to look at my proportions. How's that looking? That looks okay. And I'm going to go ahead and outline that. And on the front we have got our cab, and now that is slightly lower than the rest of it, so I can draw that in, and then I need to estimate the angle of it, so something like that, and I can go ahead and draw that in. So it's a good practice to finish off each view completely. So I'm going to go in and put in my label, and I'm happy with that. So we are going to use our standard projection free sketching, so I'm not going to use a ruler or anything. When you're doing your bounce line or your change of direction line, it has to be from the furthest most part of your object. So in this case it's the edge of the bumper and it's the top of that body there. So I've projected that along this way and I've projected that down. So that's the point where my 45-degree line is going to go. So what I find easier if you're sketching try to sketch a 45-degree line. So I'm going to work out what my gap's going to be. So I'm going to do it about here. So there's the edge of my end elevation. I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to just draw the same on this side. So that's my gap that way. So I find it easier if I draw a box first, so it's easier to visualize that. That comes along like so, and then I'm going to draw my 45-degree line through that. So there's my bounce line, which I'm going to use, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing my next views. I'm going to do the end elevation first. So first stage, I can take the top of that right across like so, and then I can take the bottom of the wheels across, or the ground line, and then I need to work out or estimate from my drawings how wide that needs to be. So the body is around about here, so I can bring that up. There's my body, and I can take that across, and there's the edge of the cabin. So I'm doing it nice and methodically so I can work out what's happening. Last part is at the back. I've got my box, so again I can bring that across. So there's my projection line, second projection line across like so. From my drawing I can see that it is slightly in from the edge of the wheel. And it's behind everything else. So that is my end elevation complete. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my label in. And then I can start working on my plan. So I'm going to put my wheel on first of all, so we can project that up. Difficult to do it without turning round. And I've got my thickness here. Project that round. Center line. So I'm going to project up the edges of these, and I can do the same on this side. So I'm doing the sort of outside the main part of it to begin with. The last thing I need to do is put in my wheel. So project it up, and I know that just is the same height as this, so it sticks out slightly. And I'm just going to put in my center line for that. My view label. So at this stage I'm going to just double check that it looks okay. So I've got the thinness of my body there, I've got my wheel sticking out, I've got my bumper sticking out, I've got my cab in here, I've got a square looking box which is on the reference information, so I'm pretty happy with that. So we look at this again from an assessment point of view. What we're looking for, we've got clear projection lines, so you can see how, although it's a sketch, I'm still following orthographic projection ideas or principles. I have got my British Standard, so I've got centre lines where they're needed. I've got my outlines shown, and I've got my light construction lines. I have got view labels, and I've got a title block with the information. As far as other parts are assessed, we're looking at the proportion. You know, how do these objects look compared with the original drawings? Is it squished that way or too tall? How does it look compared with the drawings? So I think that's looking pretty good. And similarly, you've got this, a good example would be this box on the back here, where, you know, it is lower than this and it is still a square shape here, so it's showing it in good proportion. Now it's your turn to have a go at this. Have fun.